Hey guys, this is Austin here, and I am going to be going over this video, what I think the NBA playoffs would have shaped out as if the season had never got suspended. Now, I understand that there were some close races for seeding in the West. I'm going to pretend that every team kept their original seeding, and we're going to go from here. So here we have the NBA standings. You've got, the 1 versus the 8, 4 versus 5. This is what the bracket would have looked like. So starting in the West, we've got the Lakers versus the Grizzlies. And my initial guess is that Lakers sweep. It's not going to be that hard. We have two top 6 players in the NBA on the Lakers. Memphis, they're really just a young team, kind of getting carried by the Rookie of the Year, Ja Morant. Next, we have the OKC Thunder versus the Utah Jazz. I think that it's a nice classic 7-game series. I really like Rudy Gobert and I like Donovan Mitchell, but I think that the chemistry that the young athletes have on the Oklahoma City team, along with Chris Paul's leadership, he's been the number 1 clutch player in the entire NBA so far this season, and I think that they will get that done. Then we have the Houston Rockets upsetting the Denver Nuggets. That's a 6-3. And I know what a lot of people are going to say, there's no center. It's not going to work in the playoffs once you slow things down. But, Russell Westbrook, ever since they pulled the center out, has been on an absolute tear. It's been something amazing to see. I believe that the Denver Nuggets are a good team, but they don't have a top flight player. They have the Joker, Nikola Jokic, but he's probably the 11th best player in the league at best, probably closer to 17 or 18. Whereas the Houston Rockets have a bona fide superstar in James Harden, along with another top 12 player in Russell Westbrook. I think that, the Denver Nuggets might win a couple games if the Rockets have 2 bad shooting nights, but really they're going to pull that one out. And then the next series, I see the Clippers winning another classic 7-game series against the Dallas Mavericks. Now, with Luka Doncic just by himself, the Dallas Mavericks were the number 1 offensive team in the entire NBA, and that accounts for all the time taken away without Kristaps Porzingis. He missed some time this season. What I believe is that the Dallas Mavericks are going to be one of those teams that they need to lose one time. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them in the NBA Finals next year. I believe in them, but the Clippers have too many, wing perimeter defenders to throw at Luka, and I don't think they have enough other options yet. Next, of course, in the East, obviously the Milwaukee Bucks are going to top with the Orlando Magic. The Milwaukee Bucks are going to tear through the East, similar to the way they did last year. If they reach a team that looks a lot like Toronto last year, they might face trouble. But these Orlando Magic, there's nothing really special about them. I don't know their record, but I'm pretty sure it's possible that they have a losing record or maybe they're 500. These Indiana Pacers against the Miami Heat is another 4-5 matchup. I really like both teams here, but I think it's just a really bad matchup. I think that, with Miles Turner and Victor Oladipo on the Pacers, you've got a good 1-2 punch in terms of, big man guard. But the Miami Heat have the exact same combination with Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler, but then they also have all those young athletic rookies, guys that can shoot, guys that can play defense, guys like Tyler Hero or none. They're out there, performing extremely well. Then we have another 6-3. I have, again, the 6 taking over the 3. And, one of the biggest reasons that I believe the 76ers beat the Boston Celtics is because the Boston Celtics no longer have Al Horford. And, in fact, he's on the 76ers. I think that the only reason that Joel Embiid couldn't ever get over the hump of beating the Boston Celtics was because Al Horford was such an incredibly smart defender. That being said, the Philadelphia 76ers were having some injury history. And this season, we've seen those 2 players individually play without the other star, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, and they both performed really well. Originally, they had very good chemistry playing together, but as the years have gone on, it's gotten harder and harder. Despite that, I think that even if one of them goes down, they'll still be able to compete. And even if they're both together, I think it's still a good 7-game series. And in this one, I have the home team winning 5 or 6 of their games. So it'll pretty much come down to, home game, and then game 7 in Boston. I'm pretty sure I have the 76ers coming out with that one. And then obviously next, the Toronto Raptors are going to sweep the Brooklyn Nets, especially if, Kyrie was injured and, Kevin Durant obviously wasn't going to come back. Now there's, a really interesting situation where if the playoffs come back, Kevin Durant might be allowed to play and Kyrie Irving might be better as well. So now all of a sudden that matchup looks really interesting because then the Brooklyn Nets have the probably the 2 best players on the court, just depending on how you feel about, some of the wings out there in Toronto. But standard, this would have been a sweep. The Toronto Raptors have so much depth. They have so much experience. They have so much leadership with Kyle Lowry. It wouldn't have even been close. So then here you see the final 4 teams for each conference. And in the West, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder losing to the Los Angeles Lakers 4-2. I really like the Thunder. I wish I could have seen them on the other side of the bracket. I think that the Thunder are the second best team out West, in my opinion. I think that they would have beaten the Clippers. I think that they would have beaten the Rockets. The only team that I don't think that the Thunder can beat, unfortunately, is the Lakers. And so they meet them here in round 2. It's a different kind of matchup. They don't really have the requisite big men to take on guys like LeBron James and Anthony Davis. They have a lot of athletes. And I think that the trouble that they would have given the Lakers is their perimeter defense, because we all know that the Lakers don't have great guard play, especially when it comes defensively. I mean, you've got guys like Anthony Davis and LeBron James. They're both top 6 in defensive win shares in what they're doing. But, after that, it's kind of like, you've got an older Danny Green, guys like maybe a Quinn Cook or a Rajon Rondo. And I believe in playoff Rondo, but I don't know if he's going to get the requisite minutes to get the right matchups. So I have the Lakers topping the Thunder 4-2. Next, we have the Clippers versus the Rockets. I like the Rockets, and I think that they have the potential to upset the Clippers, but I think that they don't, again, it's matchups. They don't match up well, because what the Houston Rockets are is a bunch of guards, a bunch of wings that need to shoot. And what the Clippers do better than anyone is guard the three-point line. You've got perimeter defenders like Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. You've got one guy in the middle, Montrezl Harrell, but I don't really think that, Russell Westbrook is going to be able to, take him and make much of a difference. Montrezl Harrell isn't a great defensive center. So I think those 2 games are going to be like Russell Westbrook 42-point games. But then, you also have guys like Patrick Beverley and Marcus Morris on the wings. And it's just going to be too much for, James Harden, Eric Gordon, and, Russell Westbrook if he ever decides to start shooting during those games. Out east, we've got the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Miami Heat. I've got the Miami Heat beating the Milwaukee Bucks 4-2. I believe that the Miami Heat have the right amount of talent in the front court, the big men, to be able to take on Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think that Jimmy Butler is an excellent defender, top 5 defender in the league. I think he can take out or at least neutralize Chris Middleton to some degree. And then we've got those big guys that they can funnel Giannis in the middle to, and that'll look a lot like Toronto last year. We saw one game against the Lakers where Giannis went, I believe he went like 4 for 4, 4 for 5, something like that from the three-point line. But since then, he hasn't hit a 3. It's kind of like when Jordan hit the 6 threes against Portland. He did the shrug, and it's an iconic moment. But the reason that it's an iconic moment is because Jordan wasn't a good three-point shooter. Just like here with Milwaukee Bucks. We all remember when Giannis hit all those threes, but the only reason we specifically remember those threes is because he can't shoot. It's not a fun thing to say because I love Giannis, And I'm afraid that if he does lose in the second round, he might find his way going to Golden State, which, I mean, that's a huge conversation topic for another day. But at the same time, I can't honestly say that I think the Bucks are going to win this series. I believe in the Miami Heat. I believe in Eric Spoelstra. And I believe in Jimmy Butler. And then the last second round series, we've got the Philadelphia 76ers versus the Toronto Raptors. Right here, we've got a gentleman's sweep. The Toronto Raptors and the Philadelphia 76ers, I think they match up really well. You've got guys like Marc Gasol. I think he can neutralize, or at least enough to some degree, Joel Embiid. Then, you've got other bigs like Serge Ibaka, and they've got their star player. I can't even think of his name. He basically replaced Kawhi Leonard in his role. Man, it's going to come to me a couple slides later, but I think that the matchups are really well suited to help the Toronto Raptors win this series. I think that they have the right amount of defense, with shooting and spacing. It bodes really well for them. And then we're going to move on to the conference finals. So in the West, we have all, the build up, the hype to exactly what we've been waiting for. It's always been the Clippers versus the Lakers, the Battle of LA. Pascal Siakam. That's the guy who I was thinking of. I knew I'd think of it. Yeah, I mean, Pascal Siakam. I believe in him. I think that, he provides excellent defense. I think he'd probably take on Ben Simmons in that matchup. But then again, all right, back on to the conference finals, Western Conference Finals. We've got the Lakers versus the Clippers. A lot of people are going to say that the Clippers have too many bodies that they can throw at LeBron. The problem with that is that as long as LeBron has been in the league, perimeter defenders have never been his problem. It's always been interior big men. If he ever struggled in a playoff series like he did against the Dallas Mavericks, or like he did earlier on in his career, like when he lost to Orlando, even though he put up really good numbers against Orlando, there were times when Dwight Howard, Defensive Player of the Year, was able to slow down what LeBron was doing. And, the same thing with the battles against the Indiana Pacers. It was never Paul George that was actually slowing him down. You go back and watch the games, and it was always that big man in the post that was able to stop LeBron from getting to the basket like he wants. That being said, the Clippers don't have a defensive center or a big man that can really take him on. Even if you go look at the stats against the San Antonio Spurs, people want to say, Kawhi Leonard won Finals MVP for the defense he played on LeBron. But at the same time, LeBron averaged like 27, 8, and 8, which is ridiculous. Andre Iguodala in the 2015 NBA Finals, he won Finals MVP for the defense that he played on LeBron, even though in that series, LeBron averaged 36, 13, and 9. That being said, I believe that the Lakers beat the Clippers. I'm going to say it's a 7-game series because I'm trying not to disrespect Kawhi and Paul George too much. But honestly, if it comes down to an all Los Angeles series, the Lakers are going to have 7 home games if it's a 7-game series. And I think that also has a lot to do with it. I would say 4-2, but I think I want to give Doc Rivers a little bit more credit for that. They also have a Hall of Fame coach with the Clippers, but I don't think there's no answer for Anthony Davis, let alone nobody to stop LeBron James. Now out east, my bad. I have the Toronto Raptors beating the Miami Heat in a 4-2 series. The Toronto Raptors, I believe they can make their way back to the NBA Finals. We've got, like I said, Pascal Siakam, Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol, you've got Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry, just a bunch of very, very solid guys. Pascal Siakam made a jump this year. I think he'd probably be, in the top 3 for most improved player. That being said, they have the perfect set of players to match up with the Miami Heat. They look very similar going up against each other. But the Toronto Raptors have a lot more experience. They're all veterans. They're all much older. The Miami Heat are working with Jimmy Butler and a lot of young guys. And I think you can go far with that. But it reminds me a lot of the Dallas Mavericks. I think in a couple of years, maybe like 2 or 3 years, a Miami Heat Dallas Mavericks rematch, that would look pretty intense. But right now, the Toronto Raptors are going to be moving on past the Miami Heat to face the Los Angeles Lakers in the NBA Finals. And unfortunately, I believe that the conference finals for both sides are going to be a lot more entertaining than the NBA Finals right here. It's going to be a superpower on one side versus a group of guys that nobody thought would make it back, especially after losing Kawhi Leonard. I think that the matchups bode really well for the Toronto Raptors on the way here. I think that, the fact that the Miami Heat were able to take out the Milwaukee Bucks ahead of time, that the 76ers were able to take out the Boston Celtics, I think that all worked in Toronto's favor. That being said, I don't think that they can handle, the punch of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. If Anthony Davis wasn't on this team, it might be closer to a 7-game series that could be a coin flip. But unfortunately, the Los Angeles Lakers have the best player on the court and the second best player on the court. The Toronto Raptors might have 3, 4, and 5, just kind of depending on how you feel about a guy like, JaVale McGee or Danny Green or Kyle Kuzma, like whoever you think the third star is on that squad. I think that the top-end talent is too strong in the Lakers' favor. So that being said, this is my finals matchup. I believe it's going to be another gentleman's sweep. Lakers over the Toronto Raptors. Anthony Davis finally gets a ring. LeBron James gets his 4th. Lakers are back on top of the mountain. And this is my full bracket. Again, as you can see here, got the Lakers moving through, the Raptors moving through. A couple of crazy things. I got the Rockets moving past the Nuggets, the Thunder taking on the Lakers. Probably the craziest thing is the Heat beating the Bucks. But I believe in the matchups we have there. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for stopping in. Thanks for paying attention. And if you like this video, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to click the like, subscribe, and I'll make sure to keep a lot of content flowing. We're going to be talking NBA. We're going to be talking NFL. We're going to be talking NFL fantasy. I just posted my UFC video yesterday, so make sure you guys are paying attention. Thank you for stopping in.